Adapt and overcome. So, good life advice, good advice for musicians in general, good advice for open stage players, for sure. Because, more so than anything else, when you're an open stage player, whatever your skill level is, you need to just come in with the expectation that everyone is gonna be unique. Every open stage is a little bit unique. Your situation is gonna be a little bit unique. You gotta get yourself ready to make small changes, small adjustments, adapt, and go ahead and deliver the performance you came here to do, and not be too uncomfortable, too fragile, too easily upset by small shifts in what your expectations were. Expect the unexpected and come on in there, be ready to adapt, be ready to do it. So I'm moved to talk about this because I read something that was posted on a forum for professional acoustic musicians, that kind of, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, frankly. But so I want to share that with you and then kind of react to it a little bit, and probably try to limit myself to not being on my high horse for too long. But I think there's some things that we can learn from this. So here's the post. So I have a nice Larrivee guitar. It sounds amazing acoustic. Sounds very good played through my Bose when I EQ it and all. When I go to an open mic and play through whatever and whomever is messing with sound, not great. I was thinking about bringing a DI box with EQ or something. Any recommendations? And then there's some kind of predictable comments, like somebody sort of makes the sort of obvious, very good suggestion, which is, hey, just if you have to, just make a little tweak with the tone knob or the EQ controls on your pickup. And they respond that their pickup doesn't have that. Their guitarist pickup doesn't have a tone control or EQ. So let's pin that to the board for a moment. Someone else says, that's why I don't do open mics. It seems the host intentionally makes everyone else sound bad. Just saying. I stopped doing open mics because of the crappy sound coming from my acoustic that sounds great through my own setup. I would take a Boss EQ. It has boost, and you can turn up whatever's missing or turn down whatever's too much, and it's easy to use. Open mics are a crapshoot. I make suggestions, they dial it in, then, when I start playing, they change it back to suck. Shut up and play, they said. All right, so some little themes that come out of here. So the first one I'm going to zero in on is something that the original poster says and somebody else also kind of alludes to, which is this phenomenon that you like how you do it, but something about it depends on you making adjustments at your board. So as they say, I have a nice Larrivee guitar which sounds amazing acoustic, which I take to mean in the room. When I just sit here playing the thing, I love how it sounds. And then they say it sounds very good played through my Bose, sort of high-end PA, when I EQ it and all. And then someone else is talking about, I stopped doing open mics because of the crappy sound coming from my acoustic that sounds great through my own setup. So here's the thing. What I would say to the original poster is, I can infer that you actually aren't really happy with the flat signal coming out of your guitar's pickup. And I can relate to that because the first acoustic guitar that I used a mountable pickup, like this little Seymour Duncan, squeeze it and put it into the sound hole pickup, and that's just volume, no EQ. And so I learned pretty quickly, hey, this does like the first step of the job. It does actually make a signal, but this signal needs some help. This signal needs some shape. So what I would say to you is, if you don't have a tone control and it takes you EQing it on your Bose to feel good about it, you need to learn how to communicate the adjustment that you're accustomed to making in a non-threatening way to any kind of sound person, whether it's an open stage host or you're on a bill somewhere and there's there's a house sound system and a house sound person. You need to be able to say, hey, this pickup can be a little muddy as a rule. You might end up wanting to boost the hi-hat, as an example. I don't know what is the specific adjustment they want to make, but that would be, for instance, what I would say about my old sound hole pickup. This pickup can be a little muddy and it's a little weak. You might need to boost it a little bit and specifically give me a little more high end. I would say that, and it's like it's not their problem. I'm giving them a clue. I'm giving them a shortcut. Keep in mind when I'm your open stage host is trying to get sound that's pretty decent very quickly. Like I'm trying to take like 90 seconds. I've already dialed in how the overall sound system is like. I've already dialed in the room EQ. These mics sound like mics. You get up, you're going to sound like yourself. I've already dialed in those kind of things, and the channels are generally in the ballpark. But if there's some special problem that your instrument is going to present, yeah, I appreciate the heads up because otherwise I may make an adjustment. But I'm just trying to get your levels. That's the first thing I'm trying to do. And in 90 seconds, I want you playing, and I want to make sure that we can hear your voice and that your guitar is it's there and it's part of the picture and it's an acceptable balance. It may not be the one you favor, but it's acceptable. So that's one thing is like learn how to present your needs. It is also fine for you if you're not liking what you're hearing, as you hear me kind of getting you going to politely, always please and thank you, to politely say, could I get a little bit more? Do you mind? Would it be possible to get a little more vocal in the monitor, or however you're going to phrase it? Being polite, being courteous goes so long. Goes such a long way in life, but especially in musical circles where a lot of musicians just, for whatever reason, creative people as a group, whether it's immaturity or what have you, I don't know why, but as a group, we kind of have a reputation for being kind of rude, kind of jerks. And so buck that trend, be polite, be professional, assert your needs, but also recognize the very stark difference between like truly unacceptable sound and suboptimal and just different than I would do it. Like these are different grades. Like if you're in an open stage, different than I would do it, but acceptable is not cause for concern. Suboptimal is something where you maybe say something, but you also just kind of go with it. Suboptimal can include things like it feels a little muddy, but I can be heard. Suboptimal includes things like this room is really noisy, but what are you going to do about that? Unacceptable can include things like this house cable has a short, and my guitar keeps dodging out. The, you know, I've been in situations where something became unacceptable, such as the PA quit in the middle of me singing, and the host wasn't able to do anything about it, or didn't try to do anything about it. I've been in places where the host was unprepared to handle an acoustic guitar, like just have a single mic, and they're not like ready for they don't even have a cable. So like I carry an instrument cable for that purpose, but like when I review open stages, that is something I definitely point out, because to me that's sort of this shibboleth of sort of minimum standard quality. To address something that somebody else suggests there, so it is of course ridiculous to suggest that hosts intentionally make anyone sound bad. Like, you just think about it. It demonstrates a certain naivete about like how open stages work. I want people to love their experience. I want them to feel like they sound great. I want them to come and be happy that I quickly got them up and running, and that they're happy with the sound, and that they think it sounds good, and that's inspiring. If you sound good, then you feel good about what you're doing. I don't want to make people sound bad. Like, I don't need to make other people sound bad to make myself sound good. I just want everyone to sound good and be happy. I want them coming back. So no host is intentionally making people sound bad. What I think you need to be ready to do, if you're truly a professional musician, you have to know, like, there's all kinds of reasons that you get to a gig or a show or an open stage or whatever you're about to perform. You get to your performance situation, and things are just not going to be perfect, and that you need to be ready and unshaken and unflappable and ready to just adjust a little bit and perform anyway. This can happen. As a professional gigging musician, I'll show up to locations with my own gear, and the room makes the sound suboptimal. There's pool tables and lottery machines and playoff basketball with the sound on, and it's loud, and the room is shaped weird, and we're in a weird corner. We can't quite hear ourselves the way we'd like to. And you just like figure out, okay, what do I need to make this as good as I can get it? And then adjust, adapt, overcome. The final thing I'll say is to the person who likes to just bring in an EQ pedal, while on the surface that seems like an okay thing to suggest, I would caution you not to be a diva. You know, like, don't be someone who's going to be making a big deal out of making minute adjustments for a bunch of reasons. First, you're wasting time. I'm not going to give you extra time just because you're taking a long time to set up. And I'm not going to consider that it's my fault that you're not getting exactly the EQ you want when I know full good and well that I'm giving you an acceptable, good sound. Two, if you're a lot of times when you start bringing in your own intervening gear, what's going to end up happening is we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation about how you are trying to outflank me and re-level yourself, like make things louder than is acceptable for this venue. And so you're kind of stepping on my toes. It's my job to dial in the sound. You can tell me your adjustment, but I would avoid like bringing things that are meant to give you control over what is mine to control. And you got to remember that, you know, open stage hosts are gatekeepers. You know, like, that's the difference between you being someone who's a little difficult to work with and being someone who's so easy to work with and whose talent I appreciate and who I want to invite to, like, hey, hop on the bill with us at a paying gig, or to open the door and like recommend you to the venue as someone who could play, you know, play a weekend night. Um, if you're difficult to work with, it doesn't matter how talented you are. I will not work with you or recommend you beyond this interaction of us working at the open stage. But if you're easy and you're adaptable and you roll with the punches and you always got a smile on your face and you always deliver and you're always doing your best and you act professional, that speaks volumes, you know. And that quality shines through in a person into every context. So endeavor to do that. Until next time, see you at the open stage.